Hello, in this Granny Square beginner's tutorial we are going to be using tools and yarn. Our tools will be scissors, a size G 4.0 millimeter crochet hook, a tapestry needle with a large eye for yarn. The yarn that I'm using is Red Heart Super Saver in white, Michael's Impeccable in the color Butterscotch, Vanna's Choice Lions brand in the color Fern. When beginning any project and you have your color choice of yarn, you want to always pull out an amount of yarn from your skein so that it doesn't interfere with your yarn tension. So here I have pulled out some yarn, probably about 3 or 4 feet. And to begin this tutorial, we're going to use the color white. When beginning any square, you always want to have enough yarn to sew in for later. This is called the tail. In this case, we're going to be starting with a magic circle. So I want my tail to be long enough to cover my tapestry needle at least twice. So that way I can weave in and out of my stitching to secure the yarn tail. So let's begin with a tail that's approximately 8 inches long, and I am right-handed, so I'm showing the right-handed version. Place your yarn between your hands and bring it across your pointer finger and hold it down with your thumb. With your second finger, wrap it around to create an X. Place your thumb on top of that X, and with your crochet hook, go into the circle. Notice how my hook is aiming down. Pull back the yarn, twist it a little, and you'll bring up a loop. Then go again and pull it through that chain. I guess I look a little cumbersome when I do this stuff. You'll notice that our tail goes through our circle. Let's go ahead and pull it out. Now, to wrap the yarn around my hand to control the tension, I bring it up between my little finger and my ring finger, and I wrap it around the outside, and then I go up on the inside and over my pointer finger and bring it down. Here I'm going to use my other fingers to hold the magic circle, and with the tension on my finger here, I'm going to tighten that chain stitch that we put on our magic circle so that it tightens up onto the magic circle. And then with this yarn I'm going to bring down so that the loop is about the same size as our hook. Okay, so once I readjust the yarn on my hand again, let's get started. For those who already know how to crochet, this beginning portion will be a little slow. It is for very beginners, to help them also create a granny square and feel the progress that we feel when we create something. So to begin our granny stitch, we need to chain 3. We have a loop on our hook, so we're going to take our yarn and go over, and with the hook pull it through that loop. That's one chain. Let's do it again. Rotate your hook so it aims down. There's 2. We're going to do it again. There's 3. The chain 3 is the same size as the stitch that we're going to be creating, which is called a double crochet. So let's move on to that. To do a double crochet, place your finger on top of the loop on the hook, take your hook and wrap it around the yarn, then take your hook and go through the center of your circle. It seems cumbersome, doesn't it? But it's all okay. And then pull up a loop by bringing it backwards to forwards, and now you have 3 loops on your hook. With your finger here and your thumb, go ahead and hold the magic circle and yarn over and pull it through the 2, and yarn over and pull it through the 2 again. And you have created 1 double crochet. And you can see how the chain 3 is the same height as the double crochet. Let's do it one more time, because this part of the center of our granny square is to have 3 in a group. So we need 1 more. Let's do this again. We have our yarn on our hook, the loop on our hook. So we're going to place our finger on it. We're going to take our hook and wrap it around that yarn, and we're going to go through the circle. We're going to come back and pick up that loop. And now we have 3. Yarn over and pull through the 2. Yarn over and pull through the 2. You'll also notice that when I twist my hook and go down through, you'll notice that that's how I can help make sure that that yarn stays on the hook. It's just a little twisting motion with your hands. It's not a lot. So here we have 3 considered double crochets. Remember, in this case, that chain 3 pretends to be a double crochet. So here we have 3 when we actually created 2. Just part of the crochet wording, I guess you could say. So as we did before, let's chain 2, 1 and 2. Okay. And also take your tail if it twists out of your circle so it doesn't twist around, which will happen, and it's okay. So let's continue on. Let's make another double crochet. We placed the yarn over, we went through the circle, we brought up a loop. Now we're going to go through 2 and go through 2. Okay, we're going to start picking up speed a little bit. Here's our second of this second group, double crochet. Now if you do need more help with the double crochet, refer to the beginning of what we did here, which is just a minute or 2 back on the video. So let's continue on. Let's make our third double crochet for this second group. Yarn over through the circle, pull up a loop, yarn over, through 2 off the hook, the other 2 loops off the hook. Now we have 3 double crochets. So here we have 1 group, we have our second group, we need a chain 2. 1, 2. Okay, this time I'm going to pick up the speed just a little bit more. Double crochet. There's number 1. There's number 2. and there's number 3. This is our third group of 3 double crochets. Chain 2, 1, 2. We have one more set of 3 double crochets to do. Yarn over through the circle, bring up a loop, yarn over through 2 loops on the hook, 2 loops on the hook. One more time, and then one more after this one. And this is what you should have. 1 group, 2 groups, 3 groups, 4 groups, all with 3 double crochet, chain 2 in between. Now at the end, we're not going to chain 2 because we're going to go up without having to break our yarn. So before we do that, let's close our magic circle. So with your finger and thumb, hold, not tightly, but hold the group 4 double crochets and then pull. It may seem a little rough at first, but it will pull through just nicely. Pull it through so that it's snug. Don't pull it through so that it breaks, just so it's snug. Then with our tail, bring it through between the 2 and bring it right here towards you, and let's forget about it for a little while. Okay? Now here we have created a corner, the chain 2, created another, and there's another 2. Now to go up a row, we're going to do a different stitch besides a chain 2. We're going to do what is called a half double crochet. To do a half double crochet is very similar to doing the double crochet. So since you already have the double crochet knowledge down, let's go ahead and show you how to do a double or a half double crochet. So before we make our half double crochet, we need to know where to place it at. In our chain 3 here, we need to know how to count those chains. Okay, so we have the one we created our magic circle, which we tightened down, which is that little tiny one. Then we have the first one, the second one, and the third one. Okay, this double crochet and this chain looking stitch is part of that stitch. So you can see that one chain before this post and that chain is where we want to place our half double crochet. So when somebody says at the top of chain 3, you'll know it's right there at the top of that chain 3. So to make a half double crochet, yarn over like you're going to make your double crochet, but I'll show you the difference. So insert your hook right here in the center, right here into the center of that top of chain 3. Now when you do that, make sure that you have 2 loops from that chain. Oops, sorry, I got out of camera range. 2 loops right there. The reason why is if you use only one, it tends to stretch. And then pull up a loop, and here you got the 3 on the hook. Okay? So we're going to go through all 3 this time. Notice how my hook is aiming down. We're going to go through all 3. That is called a half double crochet. Okay? So that's what created our corner, and the half double crochet is the same as chain 2 in height. Not the same as replacing it, it's just in height. Like the chain 3 is the same in height as the double crochet. So let's continue on. We're going to go to round 2. What we completed here was round 1. So let's continue on. We're going to chain 3, 1, 2, 3. Okay, I want to show you what we're doing here. This is going to be our corner, this is going to be our corner, this is our corner, and this is our corner. You see how it looks like a square? Normally when you have 3 grouped together, they call them granny clusters or grannies. So I think I'll refer to them as grannies from now on, because we are making a granny square and not group of 3. Okay, so our chain 3 took us up to the next level. Now we're going to do 2 more double crochets like we did at the beginning, right here in this opening between the 2 grannies. So yarn over and pull up a loop. We're doing our double crochet, go through 2, go through 2, do 1 more, so now we have our chain 3 pretends to be a double crochet and 2 double crochets. Let's slide our work over and chain 2, 1, 2. Anytime you do a granny and you have a corner, you will always have 2 sets of granny clusters of the 3 double crochets. So let's make our second set of 3 double crochets in that same space. It's called a space because it's an opening. Okay, there we go. We have our first for the corner and our second for the corner. Now to move on to the next, we're going to chain 2, 1, 2. You'll also notice here I ran out of yarn. So, like as before, I suggest pull your yarn out. See how it got caught up in my skein here? So it's always good to pull your yarn out so that way it doesn't mess with your tension, and you can have the same size stitches throughout. Okay, so moving on, we're going to go to the next chain 2 space, which is between our 2 groups or grannies, and let's make 2 sets of 3 double crochets with a chain 2 in between those 2 sets. Okay, so there's 1 granny set. I'm going to slide it over a little bit and chain 2, 1, 2, and we'll do another granny set. Here's 1, 2, and 3. It may seem a little tight, but they do fit. There we go. Moving on, we're going to continue doing the same thing. Chain 2, the same thing will be in this corner and this corner. I'm going to show you one more time, and then I'm going to make it so that the last one you do by yourself. After you completed, do not chain 2, just stop after the 3 grannies and we'll pick up the video and go from there. So we're going to do 3 double crochets, chain 2, slide them over on that chain 2 space and 3 more double crochets. 1, 2, 3. And I'm going to chain 2, and that'll get you started, and you can do this corner by yourself. Okay, 3 double crochets, chain 2, 3 double crochets. Do that right here in this chain 2 space, and I'll meet you when you're completed. So, how did you do? I bet you did great. This is how far you should be. We stopped with the last double crochet. Now to end this, because our next row we're going to change colors, chain 1. The next stitch we're going to do is called a slip stitch. To define placement of where that slip stitch goes, we want to count up to the top of our chain 3. So here we got 1, 2, and 3. And as before, you go through the center of that chain stitch. Make sure you pick up those 2 loops and bring it through. Okay, now you have the 2 loops on the hook, but you're not going to work with the working yarn. We're going to take that loop that we just pulled through and pull it through the loop on the hook. So that adds no height or anything, but you'll see it's the same length as our regular chain stitch, which will give us the same distance in between here. So we are at the end of this particular row 2. We're going to cut our yarn. So cut about an 8-inch tail. Remember, because we need the length for our needle when we weave in our ends. And then to finish off, just take it like you're doing a chain stitch, but pull it all the way through. And then take that and go tight till it goes flat. And this is what we should have. Next, I'll show you how to weave in our magic circle tail. Okay, as you can see, we have a right side and a wrong side to our magic circle. When I asked you to, in the beginning, to pull your tail under and to the forward, that took it to the wrong side. So take a look at the back of your stitches and see how they look. Okay, they look different than the front side. This is the front side. This is the back side. So picking up our tail from the magic circle, we're going to go ahead and thread our needle. Now I'm going to show you how I thread my needle. I place the yarn between 4 fingers. I take the needle and I turn it on its side so that the opening is looking like it's looking at me. I bring it up and then I pinch the yarn to the bottom of that needle and I pull it out, and I have just this little tiny loop. Then I take the eye of the needle and I work it over that folded part of the yarn. It goes through smoothly and it doesn't cause any fraying of the end right here. So pull it through, give yourself a little tail. Now when we pulled our magic circle closed, you see the direction comes out this way. So that means we want to go in the same direction, because if you go back that way you'll take your magic circle apart. So we're going to go clockwise here. So go in between the thickness of those stitches that are right there in the center. Pull the yarn through. Here we got the second granny of double crochets. Go right through the center. See, we're not showing our needle on the front side. We're just going through the center of those stitches. And this will help reinforce our magic circle. There are videos out there that show you how to do a double magic circle, but this is a beginner level video, so I wanted to make sure that you knew what you were doing. Once you've gone through all 4 of them one time, you have the option of going around again and again, or you can do like I'm going to do here, is I'm going to go through a few and then I'm going to go where I came out at, I'm going to go over the top and skip a few stitches and then go back. And I'm going to pull it a little snug. Okay, now that circle ain't going to go nowhere. And then take the yarn and cut it close. And there we have completed our magic circle to make sure it's been reinforced and that the tail is woven in. So continuing on to row 3, I brought out my yellow color and I pulled out a little bit of extra yarn. To start with a new color on a new row, have a tail 6 to 8 inches, and now we're going to create what is called a slip knot. It's pretty much the same as a magic circle, but a little bit different. So place it between, wrap it around your finger, place the X, place your thumb on top of that X. Now you're going to go under, I made my circle too tight, sorry. Go under and pull up. So you got a little loop. Now take your finger out of that circle and tighten all the ends there, and then tighten it on your hook. And you've created a slip knot. It's amazing how similar they are to the magic circle, huh? Alright, so for placement on our granny, this is a corner. This is not a corner. This is a corner. This is not a corner. This is the center. This is a corner. The reason why I'm saying that is because grannies have 2 grannies for the corner to go on the diagonal. So we're going to be placing our stitching in a corner. Now you can attach it at any one of these corners because they're all the same. Sorry for all the stops and starts. There's a lot of loud cars in the area for some reason. Anyway, let's move on. We're going to attach this to our corner. So with your tail down here by your hook and your working yarn in your hand, go ahead and place your finger on that loop, put it through that space, that chain 2 space, and bring up a loop. Okay, snug it down, which means pull on this finger to tighten the tension a little, and then pull it through that loop that was on your hook. Now if I'm right, we should be able to tighten it with our tail, apparently not, but go ahead and tighten that first one so it doesn't look sloppy. Okay, so now we're going to chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and then slide it over. We're going to place 2 grannies with a chain 2 in between. There's 1 double crochet and 2 double crochets. Remember, our chain 3 counts as a double crochet because of the height. Chain 2, slide it over, there's 1, and there's 2, and there's 3. Okay? So you're going to notice that as we build on, we're going to add changes to the center section of our granny in between corners. So to get to this open space right here, this chain 2 open space, we want to chain 2, 1, 2, and in this open space, what are we going to do there? Yes, we're going to do 3 grannies, or 3 double crochets for our 1 granny. Sometimes I think too fast. So we have 2 double crochets, and here's our 3rd one. Okay, and then we're going to chain 2 because we're going to move over this from the previous row. Now here I am low on my yarn supply, so let's pull it out. Just like 4 or 5, doesn't have to be a lot, just so you have a little bit of extra. Now we're here at our corner. Remember, our corner has 2 coming out of that 1 chain 2 space. Okay? So what do we do in our corner? Yes, that's right. We do 2 sets of 3 double crochets. So let's do that. There's 2, and there's 3. Okay, slide it over, chain 2, and 3 double crochets. 1, 2, and 3. You'll also notice that as I've been doing this, you notice how my fingers work and hold the bottom of my stitches so that I can help maintain tension and have them all look uniform in size and in shape. Okay? If you don't do that right now, it does take practice. Don't get frustrated with yourself. Crochet is an enjoyable hobby, and you can make beautiful things from it. Everybody starts at some time, some place, and at some way of doing it. Do not get frustrated. Okay, now we're going to chain 2, and here we have our open space between our 2 grannies again. So this is what we call a repeat in our pattern. We did our 1 granny, which is the same as here. We have our 3 double crochets between our 2 corners. So this is what a repeat is. We've done our corner, and we've done the chain 2, we did the 3 double crochets, we did the chain 2. So our repeat begins with the 3 double crochets, the chain 2, and the 3 double crochets. So we're continuing on and doing a repeat. With our tail that's here, you can either bring it over and you can do your double crochets over the top of it, or you can put it there because we're going to weave it in later, whichever you choose to do. I'm going to bring mine across and place that 1 double crochet over it, and that'll help eliminate some of my weaving in. Okay, so there's 1, 2, and 3. Okay? So we've, chain 2. So that completes our repeat. Remember what I showed you here. Chain 2 and then the 3. I would like for you to finish it until you get to here. At the end, do not chain 2. I'm going to show you how to go up to the next level using the same color. So, how did you do? I can bet your granny looks just like mine. So, we're going to be using the same color to move up to the next row. So, what we're going to do is we're going to place a half double crochet to close this gap so that we can go up. So, we want to find our placement. We want to count our three chain stitches so we know where to place our hook. Okay, place your finger on the loop, yarn over, find that top center chain. Make sure you pick up your two chain parts of the chain, and then we have the 3 loops on the hook. Let's go ahead and pull through all 3, and there we have completed row 3. And you know how I can tell? I'm going to show you. So that way, if you don't ever remember what row you're on, I'm going to show you the secret. Remember when we did row 1? Well, there's only one granny there at our corner here. We got 1. Row 2 has 2. Here's our corner. We count 2 grannies. Row 3, here's our corner. We got 1, 2, 3. Whoever designed this block really knew what they were getting into, huh? So let's move on up. This is how we keep the same color by adding a half double crochet. Now, if I want to show you if we were going to stop this color, do you remember what we did before? Chain 1 and then slip stitch. You want to pull up that loop, but pull that loop through the one on your hook. And that'll give us the same closure if you wanted to go ahead. Now you would cut your yarn and then leave your tail hanging like we did with the white. But in this case, we're going to go up 1 with this color. So let's go back and put our half double crochet in. Okay. So to move up to the next level, we want to chain 3, 1, 2, 3. This counts as our first double crochet. That means we're going to place 2 more in the same space that the half double crochet created instead of a chain 2. Okay. So this will start us on row 4. It will not start in the center, which is okay. Alright? It doesn't have to always start and stop in the center. So let's chain 2. Now here we are at our corner. Remember, we have our double granny. So we're going to place in our 3. 1, 2, and 3, and then chain 2, 1, 2, and then for our second part of our corner we add 3 more. Notice how I'm going at a regular pace that's comfortable for me. It's not a race. We want to make it look nice because when we look back on it, we want to see the beauty that we put in, not how fast we did it. Okay, so continue on around and I'll meet you here, and we got one more row to do for our 3-color granny. Okay, you got me. I made a boo-boo. I forgot to tell you. As we go up, you'll notice that we have our spaces the same as we did our first one. We will be increasing in spaces in the center because this is how the block is designed. So we have this one, the corner one. We go over this one with a chain 2, and in this space we do our 3, chain 2, and in this space we do our 3. So it's a building block. It's not going to be the same every single row. we are adding a set of grannies every row. So here I did a corner, I did my one. Now let's do our second one. There's one, and I'm sorry, I didn't explain it well. Okay, and then chain two. Okay, so between this corner and this corner, we're going to have two individual grannies. Our last row, we only had one. The last row that we're going to do, that I'm showing you how to build on these granny squares, will have 3 individual ones. But we're not there yet, we're still on this row. So now here we are at the corner. Chain 2. We did our first 3, let's slide them over. And here's our second set of 3. Okay, so here we've created our repeat already. You know where? We started here, which means here. We added a corner, we added our corner. So here's 1 and 2. So continue around at filling each one of these spaces with 3 double crochets or our granny. In our corner we get 2. Go ahead and continue around until you get to here, and I'll show you how to finish off, and then we're going to move on to our next color. So, how did you do? You'll sometimes notice that you might have to tug on your corners to make your block square looking. This is okay. Okay? So like we pull up here and pull up here. Alright? Now to finish this color, we're going to chain 1. We're going to find the top of the chain 3. We're going to draw up a loop, and then we're going to take that loop and go through our the one on our hook. Cut an 8-inch tail, and then pull that loop right through and snug it down. And there we have 2 rows of each color, the white and the yellow. Let's move on to our green color, and we're only going to place 1 row because grannies can be of any size that you like, but this is enough to get you started. Here I have my green. As before, we want to leave a little tail. I'm going to wrap it around, pull up a loop, pull it through, make a slip knot. I know I went a little fast. That's how I normally do it. Now, even though our yarn stopped here in the center, we want to find a corner. Okay? So let's find any corner here. We're going to put, whoops, out of camera range. We're going to pull up a loop and bring it through, tighten up everything, and then chain 3. 1, 2, and 3. 2 double crochets. I hope by this time of the video that you have increased your speed and that you feel confident in doing this. Our next video will be of how to do triangles, so you can do a square and a triangle video. I mean a square and triangle, and turn it into an afghan. We'll show you how to do all that in the future. So we have our 3, this is our corner, so we need to add another set of 3. And chain 2. 1, 2. Now you notice that we have 3 holes, so that means we're going to place 3 grannies across with chain 2 in between. So you see how far you've come with crochet? I know you're enjoying it. And just think of all the beautiful things that you can make for your family, your friends, and for yourself. Here on YouTube, I've included many videos of where you can make purses, baskets. I'm working on shawls and clothing items, hats, many things that are enjoyable for me, and I'm hopefully thinking that they're enjoyable for you as well. So here we have our third granny on this line up. 1, 2, and 3. Chain 2. Okay, so we've completed our granny and our 3 grannies. Whoops, I should have said our granny corner and our 3 grannies across. Now for our repeat. Our repeat will be just what we show here. The granny corner and 3. So our repeat begins, and we want to do it how many times? 1, 2, 3. So when you ever see on a pattern, repeat 3 times, that's what it's going to say. Okay? So, continue on until you get to this last one here, and I will meet you there, and you will have completed your first granny. Remember, you can add on, do whatever you like, but this was just to get you started. Alright, so this is what our granny looks like at this point. To finish off this last row, we're going to chain 1 and then slip stitch into the top of the chain 3. We're going to cut our yarn with a tail and then pull it through. And this is what we have. Our project will continue on. If you choose to continue with this, we will be making our triangle in our next video. But before that, we want to go ahead and weave in our ends of all of our loose yarns. I'm going to show you how to do it for one, and then you can do the rest. We loaded our needle. Now with our white, you'll notice that it comes up here. You want to pull in the back of some of your stitching until you get to the corner here. And then you want to go through the center of the stitches like you did with the magic circle. Okay, we're going to go through it once here. And the reason why I choose a thicker area is because adding more yarn to it will not really distort the look. So I pulled through to the end of the stitches. Now I want to skip that first stitch, go over it, and then go back through the other ones. And that'll make it so that what you put in will not come out. Can you kind of see that little over part right there? Now I'm going to do that onto the other side. Here, I'm going to stretch this first to make sure I have enough ease of the yarn in there. Now I'm going to skip this first yarn right here and go right through this again to the other side. Pull it back and then go ahead and cut it. Sometimes I do 3 and sometimes I do 2, and as you can tell, you can't even see where it was at, even though I know it's right here and woven here in the corner. On the front you cannot see it either. So continue on with the other ones as well. Even this one up here, you want to weave it down and go into the corner, and this one that we started with in the same corner, and you will have a completed granny square. Keep following me on my YouTube channel, Garnet is a Jewel, and we will add more projects to this granny square, as well as including a triangle of the same coloring. I hope to see you then, and that will show us our beginning series of a granny square and a granny triangle. Until then, bye-bye.